it was like a light bulb went on, finally, and just saying like, whoa, like I have anxiety. Like I didn't think I was even capable of having anxiety with just the way I live life, and how, I was like, only like weird people have anxiety and get depressed, like, but that's not me and that will never be me. But I realized, like, no, like we all deal with that stuff.
You're watching Flow State, conversations with athletes, artists, and entrepreneurs about the ups and downs of a life totally immersed in doing what you love. My name is Nick Willicke. I'm the host of this show, and I'm also the co-founder of Sojin, where we make modern remedies for busy working professionals. Today, I had the pleasure of speaking with Matt Dayton, a competitive surfer and the founder of the digital marketing agency Next Level Creative. Matt and I talk about everything from how surfing helped him recover from asthma as a kid, to what he learned about the importance of friendship and community while navigating a challenging divorce. Before we dive in, today's episode is brought to you by the Sojin Pain Relief Tincture. We make the pain relief tincture by cold soaking organic turmeric, hemp, copaiba, black pepper, ginger, and orange peel, and coconut oil overnight, and then filtering out the herbs to leave us with a smooth tincture oil that's rich in healthy plant-based nutrients that are great for boosting recovery and helping with inflammation. You can use this oil in a smoothie, you can take it in a tea, or you can just drop the oil directly on your tongue. So if you live an active lifestyle and you're curious to see how this can help you, then head to www.sojin.co and try the 30-day risk-free trial of the pain relief tincture. And now, a conversation between me and Matt Dayton. I hope you enjoy this conversation as much as I did. Thank you for coming on the show.
Yeah, dude. Good to be here, man. So you had me. Appreciate it. It's an honor.
I'm really excited. So we're going to talk about your work. We're going to talk about your work in the South Florida community and New Smyrna. We'll talk about surfing and what you do with your social media company, and kind of talk about all different aspects. But to get things started, let's talk a little bit about your upbringing and what was your childhood like.
Was born in Sanford, Florida, and just to give you guys in a nutshell, was adopted when I was about 2 days old.
Okay.
My biological mom, she was super young. She was, I believe, about 17, 18 years old, and at that time, it was definitely frowned upon to have children out of wedlock. Yeah, so she was basically, my biological mom was kicked out of her house, most likely, and just didn't have anywhere to go. And so some friends of what became my adoptive parents, friends of theirs, was a lawyer, and his wife decided to start a ministry to help out these young mothers, that were not single mothers, to help them through the child, birth process. And then he would actually do the adoption, legally.
The paperwork and everything.
Home, yeah.
Okay.
And so my parents were praying for a blonde-haired, blue-eyed boy for apparently quite a while. And so John Jones is the lawyer's name. The adoption brought me to Howard and Bev Dayton when I was 2 days old. And he personally delivered me to the doorstep, brought me, so he's
that's so cool.
It's a big deal. Like when I see that guy, I'm like, if it wasn't for you, man, I don't know where I'd be right. It's like pretty awesome story. So, yeah, and I mean, I tell people that I won the adoption lottery, because I had two of the best parents in the world for sure. Just showed me nothing but unconditional love, first and foremost. When people would come into our house, like, they could feel the warmth and, like, we like the love, just that, and that's one thing I learned, was seeing that, but then also them introducing me to other people that they knew that had, like, that same heart. Like, I always remember feeling that, and I still do it to this day. Like, when I meet somebody, I'm like,
reminds you of your parents.
Yeah, and that feeling of, like, unconditional love, and being humble and being accepting and all those things. Like you feel that as soon as you meet somebody. You really do. It's like this thing that you're just like, wow, okay, like I'm connected with this person in a really special way. To be blessed with parents that have gave that to me, it's like with great power comes great responsibility.
Uncle Ben.
It's like, it's like, dude, you've been given this, so you need to give it back now. Like, that's what you're, part of the reason you're here, So, and I think that's...
So giving it back and spreading that.
Yeah.
So you're a great example that I feel like in the community here and everything you do and the way you treat people. We'll talk about that in a little bit. Before we get to that, just kind of continuing on your childhood, when did you start surfing? When did you get into that?
It's a funny story. I'm glad I remember this, but when I was young, like 4 or 5 years old, I remember going to the beach, and a number of times I remember going in the ocean and actually not liking it. Like it
really
actually, my skin, I remember like itching. I may have gotten stung by jellyfish. I don't know, but I just remember like there was
it always turns your beach trip upside down.
Yeah, like just not like vibing with it too much, And so. Yeah, I remember like not loving the ocean in the beginning, which is kind of interesting. Probably about 5 years later, I think it was 10 or 11, there was a boogie board sitting outside, like some people that we had met at the beach, their condo. And so I was like, man, I want to try that thing out, And so I asked to borrow it.
Were you skateboarding at the time or anything like that?
Maybe, yeah, definitely skateboarding.
You're skateboarding.
When I was actually, I'm glad you brought that up. I was skateboarding when I was like 11 months old or something.
No way.
There's photos now that I'm glad, my parents like took photos of me with like the neighborhood girls, they were a little older. And funny story, they actually would get 2 skateboards and they would like put their legs across on each other. And I would sit in the middle of them, and we would go down the road, literally, like, as if, so, I mean...
So there's 2 skateboards, and one's on one with their feet on the other one.
They're, like, wrapped, connected their legs, and they're like, all right, Matt, let's go down the hill. You sit right in the middle, And so...
You were, like, less than a year old at this time?
Yeah, I was in literally, like, a onesie. Like, no joke, like, flying down the hill with these 2 girls. I think they babysat me or something, but...
That's
little
amazing.
Kid, so that was definitely where the board sports, I guess, kind of started.
Yeah. Wow. So you got so that was when you were like super young. You were on a board basically when you could walk or before.
Yeah.
And then you kept skating.
Yep. Yeah. So skating for sure was the first board sport.
Okay. So then when you see this boogie board on the beach, you're kind of like, hey, like this looks familiar.
Yeah. Or I just I was like, I can ride that somehow, some way. Like let's figure this one out. I mean, awesome. I was honestly like, I told a lot of people that I tried every sport in a sense, like, because I just wanted to see. I'm like, maybe I'll like, So I kind of gave most sports a shot. I was like tennis, bowling, baseball, football, basketball. I just felt like I wanted to try everything because I love.
Give them all a fair shake.
Yeah. So, so I grabbed this boogie board, went out in the ocean, started riding waves, and I just remember like falling in love with just being out there, and then the rush that came with just catching a wave, and I was I was just riding straight, but it was like probably waist chest high, and I'm like these wedges are just like flying on this board like this is and I just
were you riding it standing up or were you like just riding boogie board style riding it in your stomach? Just
total boogie board, like that's how it started obviously, and then probably a few months into it I'm like looking at magazines and I was like, well, wait a second, these guys are standing and like doing that. I'm like, that looks a lot cooler than this thing over here. I'm like, I gotta learn that, I'm like, I'm going to freaking stand up and charge some waves, pulling the barrel and standing up, that kind of thing. So, there is some cool bodyboarding that happens, but only like places like Pipeline or the Wedge, where the waves are big, huge, and they do some super legit stuff.
You will get like barreled, like
or like launch off the lip, like 20 feet in the air and do a El Rolo or something. But that's like legit bodyboarding. There's so many different ways to ride waves, and so really what I tell people now, like if you're not having fun, then like you just shouldn't even be out here. Like it's all about having fun. So whether you ride it on a boogie board, surfboard, soft top, body surf, like whatever it is. I mean, there's so many different ways to ride waves. So it's like, dude, just make sure you're having fun, you know, because if you're not having fun, then like it's not, you know, if this board isn't working for you, go find one that does. You know? So that's the key. And for me, as a lot of people know, like I love riding a lot of different kinds of boards, you know, experimenting and
that's part of the fun of surfing for sure.
Yeah.
Different fin setups and shapes and everything.
Yep. So that's kind of been one of my big things, and I'm, you know, blessed to be able to do it, but having ridden just like so many different designs, and then obviously with wave pools coming up, that's gonna absolutely change the game for surfboard designers, because now, you know, you won't have to go like try board out on a few different sessions. Like you're gonna go out and catch 10 waves at a wave pool and be like, dude, this board's the one. Or you'll catch like a couple waves and be like, I hate this board, you know, just go get another one, you know, in the shop, like right there at the wave pool. So wave pools will absolutely change the game in the future of surfboard design. So that's
let's talk about that too in a bit, because I want to hear your take on wave pools. Were you always, so you pick up a boogie board and a surfboard at 11? Were you always, you're really athletic as a kid, trying every sport, were you always really healthy?
My mom was, she was kind of like into nutrition and taking care of your body well by what you put in it from a very young age, and really kind of before it was like taboo and like cool, you know, to be like healthy. Like she was just on a whole nother level. She would bring me like a handful of like, you know, 15 vitamins every morning.
Really?
Yeah, like gnarly like piles, you know. And I'd be like, oh, like, you know, no problem. Like,
how old were you at this time?
I mean, I was young, like 5 or 6.
Wow, dude, you're already taking vitamins for your mom.
Yeah,
that's a lot of vitamins to take as a little kid.
I used to like freak people out at school. I'd be like, look at all these I'm about to take, you know. They'd be like, what? Like, just be like down it and chug it, no problem. And they'd be like, dude, you're crazy.
All in one go? 15 all in one go?
Yeah, no problem.
That's just,
yeah.
People, your classmates must have thought you were like Hulk or Superman or something like that.
And they were like, I don't know, but your mom's different. She's on, yeah. So it was unique, but she taught me how to take care of myself well. I mean, and to this day, I use a lot of the things that she taught me, like little things that, I mean, you know, knock on wood, but I don't get sick a whole lot, and a lot of the things that I utilize today, like that I take on a daily basis, are because of her.
Why did you? So 15 vitamins, was that just for general health, or did you have like a condition, or did you have like some sort of did you have a condition or something that she was trying to effectively help you with?
Yeah,
that's why she's giving you so many vitamins?
I mean, so yeah, I definitely had a lot of allergies and asthma, you know, as a kid.
I had asthma too.
Yeah. So asthma was like the big one early on. Definitely remember it was scary. Anybody that has asthma knows it's like, it just brings anxiety on naturally when you can't breathe well, you know. So, you know, it's like breathing through a straw, you know, that's how they compare it to. And like, it's a horrible feeling, you know, until you get some relief. So there was a lot of that for a long time, and just dealt with that, you know, through childhood. And you know, my mom, she helped with the food and everything. Like that was, you know, certain diets and things like that I was always on. I mean, she would like literally bring me special like lunches to school sometimes, you know. And, like,
that's awesome.
So yeah, I mean, she was.
Your mom sounds like a boss.
No, yeah, totally. I mean, we finally found, when I was like 10 or 11, found like an allergy asthma doctor.
Okay.
And, you know, went to him, got the testing, all that. And he's like, hey, you're super allergic to dust. Like, that's your highest, you know, allergy to anything. So you need to keep your environment very clean around you. Like, that's going to be important, you know, moving on from here for you and your well-being. So I took that, like, to a whole nother level. I took it to this level, like, okay, I got to keep this clean, my room where I stay. But then I was like, I need to keep my whole house clean. Like, So I would literally like clean my parents' entire house like, all the time. Like it wasn't
as a kid.
Yeah.
As an 11-year-old kid.
Yeah, like by the time I was 13, bro, I was like stupid clean. Like it was everything. Their room, like vacuuming, like the whole house all the time. And then it turned into like, I'd do the yard. I had this thing where I wanted to, like, we had pine trees, and they would shed, the pine needles all over our house, like the roof. And I got this somewhat obsession with keeping the roof clean. So I would get up and blow, like, constantly all the pine needles off. And my parents were finally like, yeah, it's probably not really good for the roof. Like, you may want to, like, chill out. So literally they came to a point where they're just like, you can't go up there, like, only like once a month or so. And so I'd like sneak up there, like,
You just wait till they were away at work.
Yeah. And sometimes I remember my mom like probably catching me, calling my dad like, he's on the roof again. You're gonna need to come home and get this kid down. And I'd be like, go jump. Yeah, it was like next level OCD at like 13.
That happened? You had to jump off the roof to escape your mom?
Oh yeah. There was a lot of.
What'd you jump into? You jump into the bushes?
Just it wasn't that high. I just jump into some pine needles on the side. It was like some good cushion for me.
So this has been a one-story, a ranch house?
Yeah. It was
ranch
one
house.
story. Yeah, it wasn't anything crazy. It was a good like 10-foot jump, but I mean, dude, when you're 13, I was like, let's do it. Like, we used to just see how high, stuff we could jump off of at that time. So, but,
did your doctor recommend surfing to you for your lungs at all?
Yeah, so.
Because that's good. That's good for chest congestion and things like that.
Yeah.
Inhaling the salty air, right?
For sure. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's when I think. So when I started riding waves, finally got my own surfboard. Actually, so the first surfboard. This is good to mention. The first surfboard I ever got was from John Jones, the guy who, lawyer that brought me to my adopted parents. So his son actually surfed. His son was adopted as well. And I knew he was a surfer. He was a little older than me, and so I reached out. And I'm like, "Hey, do you know where to get a board?" He's like, "Well, actually, I'm selling a board of mine." So I thought it was so cool because like he was the only like good surfer I knew at the time. So he sold me my first board, and it was a Fox surfboard. I think it was shaped by like Greg Loher. He's a local shaper. I think probably still around here, maybe still shaping, but. Anyway, so got that. That was my first official board.
What kind of board was it?
It was a Fox.
Fox board.
Fox surfboards.
What do you remember? Was it like a short board?
Yeah.
Or?
Well, it was like what would be like kind of a hybrid right now. It's probably like 5'6", kind of like a little wider. Good Florida board. Basically made for Florida.
Okay.
Performance board for here. A little wider and flatter. So yeah, that thing had like stickers all over it, and I thought it was like the coolest thing ever. And
that's awesome.
I used to, because we lived inland, so I couldn't always surf. So I actually would we had a pool, and I would go put in the pool and like run and like jump on it, and like just to try and feel it a little bit. And but then I ended up
backyard skimboarding.
Yeah. I ended up it ended up hitting the sides of the pool and stuff, and like I dinged it all up. I was like, oh gosh, maybe I shouldn't be doing this, but. So that was the first one. Then
did that help? By the way, did going out and surfing help with your asthma?
Yeah, I mean, I figured out pretty quick, especially having consistent allergies, and then like going to the beach and having I just always felt a lot better after I surfed, and so for me it was like this thing of living inland a little ways. We're probably close to an hour from the beach, and so it was like I'd go surf, feel amazing for like a day or something, and then go back into the allergy environment, and start flaring up again. Really, surfing was that one thing. So that became part of my journey, was like, all right, well, how much time at least can I get out there to try and feel as good as I possibly can, because I knew that was like kind of my happy place, specifically for my health. When I first started going and learning to surf, mainly surfed this place called Bethune Beach, which is down at the south end of New Smyrna.
Okay.
And so Bethune, and then there was another, it's called Canaveral National Seashore, which is about a mile south, which is kind of another break. There's some good breaks in there, but also like a national park. It's protected lands down there. So that's why I really learned how to surf and had some of my, best times as like a teenager when I was a little, from like when I could drive, 15, 16 through, 18 or 19, like we just had some priceless times down there, weekends. And I'm sure there was some like after school getting away. I'm sure I skipped like plenty of like soccer and basketball practices, to go surf occasionally. Like,
dude, that's what it's about, man.
Yeah. I remember. I'm sure my basketball coach was like, "You need to stop that surfing when we're in season, man. You gotta stay focused."
Were you surfing by yourself? Who's going with you when you were going to the beach?
Back then, it was like, there was kind of more of a select crew, like a tight knit crew of surfers. It wasn't like. Now it's such a mainstream sport. Like everybody kind of wants to be a surfer. Says like, "Oh yeah, I surf."
Yeah.
I have a foamy like that I come once every 3 weeks or what But back then it was like a core. Everything was just more core. Like if you were a diehard surfer, like you were diehard.
I've heard people say similar things about like skating back in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah,
it came with some social costs to be a skater.
Right, for sure. Oh yeah, I think everybody had a perception of what a surfer was, and a lot of times it had to do. Yeah, there's marijuana use and partying and all that. That's how they were perceived. But
it was a party crew.
Well, yeah,
was it the party crew?
For sure. Oh yeah, and it was like even professional surfers back then at the top. The best surfers in the world, they partied hard and they partied the night before their contest and then they paddle out and win a pipe. And you're like
Andy Irons going out hungover and just winning it.
Yeah. So times have changed a lot when it comes to that and how professional surfers are coached and how that much they train, and so that's been cool to see the evolution of surfing and how far it's come.
Did you go away for college, or where did you do college?
I went down to Palm Beach Atlantic.
Okay.
In West Palm Beach. I got my degree in surfing 101 for sure. Like, because that was I had never had access to surfing so close. So, I was only a mile, if that, from the beach. So I went, and it's just this whole new world opens up. You're like, wow, like I can literally. Every day there's waves, like I can surf. And then again, met the core crew, at the college that was going there, and we just, you become this little band of brothers, and you're going around school and like, hey, is there waves? No, it's still flat, and so you're always talking, and then a little wind swell comes in next day, and they're like, dude, it's like waist high, it's like probably gonna be chest high, after class is over, and where everybody's frothing, and then we all met like at our local beach. It was called Clark Street, and like crazy like heavy wedges, like head high wedges that would just break you and your board. I mean, if you didn't know how to surf and be fast. So I actually learned a lot about like the speed of how fast you have to react in surfing. Like I was tell people I learned how to surf there really because of like the reaction time you had to have. Like the waves were crazy. And they had consequences, like you could get really hurt, if you weren't like on your toes. There's a lot more consequences there. So I learned how to, I tell people I really did learn how to surf well there, And again, I just had access. I feel blessed because back then, and a lot of people I've asked, but the sandbar was really good around Palm Beach, specifically like Reef Road, which is arguably the best like bigger wave spot back then, at least in Florida. Like when it's on, it was just insane, like 8 to 12 foot waves, no problem. From the outside, just reeling all the way through. And it was a left when it was good, it was a left that would just go a couple hundred yards, and it would hold the whole way. And then it's just aqua blue water, like
dude,
the dreamiest.
That's magical.
Ever. Yeah,
that's magical.
Yeah. So I got to surf it every time it broke for about 5 years that I was down there, and just feel again like blessed to have been able to experience that.
Yeah, dude.
About a year after I left, they ended up dredging that place, and it like has never broke the same since, pretty much. So I'm just like,
Just when they fill it in.
yeah, just pumping sand, and it just seemed like it never really came back like it was,
Mm-hmm.
and so yeah, again, it's different seasons of life, and just being appreciative of like those seasons, really great seasons you get to experience.
What were the highlights of that season for you?
I'd say that was the first time I experienced like falling in love, like that feeling of like meeting that special person, that like you're like, oh my gosh, like this is the one, This, you meet somebody, you just vibe was so hard, and you're just like, that's all, especially at that age, you're just like, this is it. Like I found love. Like I want to feel like this forever, and then 6 months down the road, you're like, well, maybe this is not what I want forever. But,
was that college?
Yeah. I
First
met a
serious
girl.
girlfriend.
Yeah. That was the first time for sure. Like serious girlfriend, committed. And
Okay.
she was from Maryland. Her name was Lisa, and she was just like very pure and just very genuine, like real, didn't wear a lot of makeup. She had little cut off jean shorts, little like white tank tops, and like ever since then, dude, kind of like what Daisy Duke, I don't know if you know who that is from Dukes of Hazzard, but like a similar look, and that's what I like. That's exact to this day. Like if I could just describe, like that's what I would look for. Is like that girl in those jean shorts, super natural, no makeup or very little, and just yeah, genuine, natural, organic. Like this is who I am. But simple, man. It's
yeah.
I think everything, if you keep it simple, like life just flows a lot better. So
let's pick up that thread of asthma and anxiety, because you talked about that a bit and how it impacted your childhood. I'm curious how that impacted your years after your college graduation and your life into adulthood. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Later on, got married, had Talia when I was 34, I believe. And
that's your daughter?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. And life changes entirely, dude, when you have a child of your own, and incredible experience. I mean, going through that, creating a human that looks like you, is part of you, is like nothing like it. It is just one of the coolest things you'll ever experience. And so I think that's ultimately when we talk about anxiety, I would say that, because you have this child, this thing you've created that
you
have
feel
to
responsible.
look after. Right. So I think that's probably when, for me, anxiety started creeping in the picture a little bit. I think for me, anxiety is ultimately like the worry of like not being in control. And sometimes you don't realize that what anxiety is, or what it even feels like, and why you're feeling the way you are. But
yeah,
I used to go to Costa Rica a lot. That's where I've been 18 times now. I had a trip, and on the way there, we get on the runway, and I was actually supposed to surf in a night contest that night. I had surfed in it the year before, and I think I had gotten like third or something. But this contest is that night. It's a big deal. Like everybody, from the towns come. The lights are on the water. Like
nice,
incredible experience.
Where is this in Costa Rica?
It was in Hermosa.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
And so went to that contest and did fairly well, and I was like, on Costa Rican TV, on commercials and stuff. Like I didn't even know it. My buddy's like, oh yeah, you're on like one of these main commercials pushing this surf contest. And I'm like, oh cool, So I was like, sign me up for the next one, And so I was flying there. Literally that day, the contest was that night. We get on the runway in Orlando and go to take off, and they're powering, down the runway, and the plane started like backfiring. It was like the loudest like booms you've ever heard, like, and I was like, that's not good. Maybe we shouldn't, and so sure enough, they aborted the takeoff. But
that's scary.
Yeah. Oh yeah. it wouldn't have been good if we took off. So thankfully God spared us, and they stopped that plane. Went back to the gate and worked on it for a couple hours, and it's crazy. They would actually
they deboard the plane while they're working on it.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we're waiting, and mechanics are trying to fix it. They would like crank it up every so often to see if they had fixed it. Like right at the gate though, they're right there with this plane, and the thing would like boom and like shake the airport.
Just scare the shit
we're
out
just
of all
like,
you
dude,
people
I don't want to get back on that plane. Like hell no. Like you're bringing another plane because we ain't going on that one. Yeah. So we ended up not leaving that night. They put us up in the airport hotel, and ended up getting up the next morning and flying out. So made it to Costa Rica, thankfully. Had a great trip.
You made it. Okay.
Yeah. Obviously.
Did you surf the contest again?
I didn't make the contest. I did miss the contest because it was that night.
Oh dang.
So, whatever. It just wasn't meant to be.
The locals must have missed you on the commercials.
Yeah. I didn't make the second round of commercials for the following year, but so got there the next day. I mean, I ended up staying for about a month and a half.
You have like anxiety on the second flight, or?
So what happened? On the way back, we get I was actually sick. I'd come down with like a fever. I probably had some bad water or something, some bad food or something, and so I was fairly sick like on the way back, and so I was just like, get me home, Literally remember being in the plane like this, asking for a blanket, like had a pretty bad fever.
Okay.
And they had no blankets or anything, so I was just like Lord, like get me home, like I'm ready to go home.
That's the worst, man.
So we get up, to altitude and cruising altitude, and like get to the Caribbean side of Costa Rica, and I knew the route, and they started doing like circling, around the coast, and the sun was setting. I remember like beautiful sunset, but I was just like, something's going on. So like after like the second circle, they come on and I say, we're gonna have to go back and make an emergency landing. I'm like, oh gosh, I'm sick. I just want to go home. And this little Spanish lady next to me, she's like starting to like pray like that we're gonna make it in one piece. Yeah, like literally like
it wasn't. This is the worst case.
It wasn't. Yeah, it wasn't looking. I was just like, this may not end well. So I had that like come to Jesus moment for sure, where I was like, all right, God, like my heart is about to blow out of my chest right now with how much anxiety I have. Literally, yeah. I remember the cabin lights, they like dimmed them. Like it was just like it's like a movie,
Yeah, you felt very out of control. Oh. Talking about anxiety, yeah.
Right? Yeah. So I think that was probably the first experience with severe anxiety I've ever had.
Understandably.
Yeah, and so. We cruised back finally. We did like 6 circles, dude. And so I'm like, are they dumping gas? Like, I knew something wasn't right. Started going back. Obviously made it back and landed. Everybody's like cheering, like, yeah, we made it.
We're alive.
Yeah. Little ladies like, praise the Lord. Everybody's stoked. We get down and we pull up to the gate, and there's like ambulances, fire engines, like waiting for us all over the place.
They had them ready.
Yeah.
That's terrifying.
Yeah. So I was like, yeah, that was pretty legit. Like, we dodged a bullet for sure, Wow. And so get off that plane, and they literally just turned around, had another one ready, and we just like jumped on the other plane like 30 minutes later and took off. I'm like, okay, well, at least it's not, yeah. So that's about how that went. And
my gosh, man. And you've been back a bunch of times after that, so.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, for sure. That didn't stop me from traveling. But I had some serious anxiety issues with flying after that for a long time.
Yeah.
In fact, I would have to like self-medicate, whether it's like, I don't know, just take things to calm me down a little bit. I needed some Sojin for sure at that point.
I got you now.
Yeah. But I would usually like have a beer or something like before I take off just to like chill me out because it was significant.
Did you ever go to see any doctors about it and try to get their help?
Yeah, I don't. So we'll go back to. Actually, we'll fast forward to. Again, like the whole plane anxiety connection, years later, I was on a plane, and we talked about this a little bit, to Colorado, and got up, and I had gotten a lot better with my anxiety at this point. Thought I was like kind of in control of it, but realized I really wasn't. And get up, cruising altitude again. Everything was fine, and I just like couldn't breathe well, and I was like, this is weird. Like, must be my asthma's flaring. So I'm like taking my inhaler a bunch, and it's probably helped a little, but it just never really went away. And even I remember in Colorado, I think when I got there, I was still having issues, and I was just like, this is weird because I'm fine, I'm not sick, but something's going on. And
interesting. You think it was the altitude?
No. I mean, I think legitimately, that was the beginning of flying in the Costa Rica trip. That was literally the beginning of anxiety for me. But then I think this was like a trigger, that came up later on that like got the anxiety going again. And so, that became, it was significant. My breathing for a while, like, was just not good. Like, things would come up, and my breathing would just not be good, like, consistently. And
this is for like an extended period of time, like how?
This is probably over the span of at least, I'd say, a year and a half. That and it got to the point where I started going to doctors and just trying to figure out.
Out of curiosity, sorry to interrupt you, but when you say my breathing was not good, like, describe that.
Yeah, so it was this feeling of chest being super tight. Like, I'd lay down to go to sleep. It was laying down was actually the worst, and going to sleep at night was the worst. But it literally would, like, I'd lay down on my back. That's how I normally sleep, and it just felt like somebody was like stepping on my chest, and then like breathing out of the straw. They always say like that's kind of what an asthmatic feels like, breathing out of a straw, like that little, amount of air. It's not much. You're gonna be getting in and out. So. But the chest heaviness, all that, is where it can really be significant, and it freaks you out. Like, that breeds anxiety in itself, So there was just
sorry to interrupt. So that helped. So that's what it felt like. And then you said you went to see some doctors about that feeling.
Yeah. So started seeing my asthma allergy doctor, some pulmonary doctors, just anybody and everybody I could think of that might be able to help what I was experiencing. And it ended up that I really figured it out and determined on my own that it was anxiety for the most part.
What did the doctor say, out of curiosity?
Yeah, I mean, they that's when I realized that a lot of modern medicine, unfortunately, is not the answer in terms of like them throwing a pill, at everything. Like,
okay. So that's what they try. They basically give you medication to help with it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So, everything I was experiencing, it was like a disease, or, the remedy was to medicate, give it, everything had a pill that would fix it,
Did you try that?
I tried a few for sure, and I just a lot of those things had side effects. Even when I was younger, I remember taking some certain medications, and they would just give me these weird side effects, and I was just like, this doesn't feel right. It's not right. Like, I don't want to feel like this. And so
when you say like this, how did that make you feel?
Just things that would do to my body, like energy levels, and things that
made you feel more tired.
Yeah, for sure. It just, I could tell it was like something foreign in my system and my system wasn't agreeing with it, didn't want it. And kind of like, I think if you listen to your body, it'll tell you, what it needs and what it doesn't want, but you gotta be like, you gotta get to know your body and like listen to it. I think in everything, not just what you take in, but the people you're, surround yourself with, like experiences you have, like that your body will tell you whether it's like a positive or negative energy, that's coming from people, places, things around you. So I try to be really like cognizant of that, that it's
Just listen to what your body's saying.
Yeah, listen to your like subconscious almost, like it's talking to you and all the time telling you like what you should and shouldn't be doing, you know? And so
you felt your body rejecting these medications that doctors were giving you for anxiety.
Yeah, for sure.
Wow.
There's and then that was a good thing with my mom as well. She, again, I think she it was the onset of really just what am I trying to say? Not antibiotics, but pharmaceuticals. That's that was, I'd say, the beginning of where pharmaceutical companies were coming out and like just creating all these medications. Again, this is what's wrong with you. Well, here's a pill for it. Here's a pill. And so there was just so much of that, and so seeing what I had come from, where young, when I was younger, I didn't have any of those things, and we were more combating allergies and asthma with like food and natural things, and then
lifestyle changes.
And right,
supplements and things like that.
Yeah.
Okay.
And now everything has a pill that you take to fix it. It's just like, nah, something's not right here. So, but that becomes a personal journey that you have to figure out for yourself. And again, like what your body is, what it wants, what it needs, and what it doesn't need, and what is not good for it. So
tell me about that personal journey, that figuring out what your body wanted and what your body needed.
That really started when I was going to those doctors about the anxiety, which was it felt like asthma, and the onset of a lot more asthmatic type scenarios. But it really, what I learned was, I believe, mostly anxiety, and which was it was like a light bulb went on, finally, and just saying like, whoa, like I have anxiety. Like I didn't think I was even capable of having anxiety with just the way I live life, and how, I was like, only like weird people have anxiety and get depressed, like, but that's not me, and that will never be me. But I realized, like, no, like we all deal with that stuff, and there's things that happen in our lives, different triggers, that bring that on. So I definitely believe that incident with the plane in Costa Rica, that was a significant thing that happened that created this anxiety in me, and so that's why I've kind of struggled with that, just being on planes and feeling a little out of control, but have now come to a place in my life where I've overcome that a lot.
Wow.
I can honestly say, like, the last few flights I've been on, I've felt the most at ease and with just life and where I'm traveling to, where I'm going, and even to the point, I told my dad this, but I was on a plane to the Dominican Republic earlier this year, and I literally like was talking to God, saying, hey, like my life is in your hand. Like if it's time for me to go, like I'll probably be okay with it. Like, and it was weird because like who even thinks about that or like says that, but I really was at this like almost like this peace, like to have this peace about where I was in that moment, and just saying like, if this thing goes down, like, not that I wanted to, or pretty sure it's not, but if it does, like, I'd be okay with that. Like I can go right now and be at peace with where I'm at, So, and that was like, I'd never felt that in my life, So
what were some of so you had the plane trigger. How did you navigate how to know what to do when you started experiencing these triggers and they started making you feel anxious?
So I'd say with that, you have to figure out what your triggers are, and see those and like almost mentally prepare for certain things to happen. And it needs to be a conscious effort, decision, like, hey, okay, these are like, for me, obviously the airplane, like going and flying, was an issue. So, but I think a lot of it too is how healthy you are as a person, So if you're just not in a real healthy place in your life, if you're dealing with a lot of stress and you know, relationships, marriage, stress at work. There's so many different stresses in our culture, especially. So, if you're not handling those from a healthy perspective, and really like on top of that kind of stuff, then you're gonna suffer, especially with like your triggers. So
They will trigger you more, basically.
and you're not gonna respond to them. You won't be as strong to be able to be like, no, like mentally, like I got this. You'll be more just like jump to anxiety and like
more reactive.
Right. Yeah. So, that's just been a journey for me, personal journey for me, and I think anybody else. Just to work on yourself, like learn about yourself, learn about the things that you're struggling with, get info on how you can deal with that, like get all these different perspectives about these things, and then like come up with your own, like, hey, okay, this is how I'm gonna try to work on this and figure it out. Everybody's wired differently, so we gotta figure out what works for us. And again, that's part of where I think you're like learning yourself and who you are, and getting up every day and like, okay, like this is what I need to do for me to move forward. That this person over here may be something totally different, but they're not wired like me, so I got to figure it out on my own terms, that kind of thing. So it's a personal journey to deal with.
It makes it very personal in that way.
Yeah, for sure.
What did you do? Like, what was your what actions did you take? What was your plan to learn about yourself?
Yeah, I think it was just, I've always really liked psychology and learning about just the human mind and how we work, and I think, ultimately, a big thing that I've learned about that is, again, like the healthier we are as people and how we take care of ourselves directly affects like just the kind of human being we're going to be, whether it's like positive or negative, in this world. And so I just realized that, working on yourself, like, they say, love yourself, like, and, not that it's like all about you, but it really is. Like, if you're not a healthy human being, like, you're not going to be able to go out and treat others and love others the way you're supposed to, and so it's actually really important to like take care of yourself, so we can go out and, be a positive influence or person, in other people's lives, that come in our path. So, yeah, and I've definitely seen that in the last year or so. Like, I've just really worked hard on myself, and mentally, physically, and spiritually. Like, that's kind of the three boxes I think you have to check,
The triangle.
Right, yeah. And so that's tough, man. It's like, those are like 3 full-time jobs, that you have to add. But it's like just little steps every day, if you can try to work on those, 3 things, like somehow each day, and that stuff like adds up over time. And that's how you change, as a person in a positive way. So when you stay connected to your mental health, keeping that in check, obviously physically, staying in shape, taking care of your body, and then spiritual, connecting to God, whatever that looks like for you. I don't like the word religion. It's just about a relationship with your creator, and that's it. Like, we all have this idea of who God is, or some people don't think there's God, but most people feel like there's a higher power, that kind of thing. So, but that's your personal thing, again, your personal journey. Like, what does that look like for you? And you have to figure it out on your own, even aside from what your parents believe, and a whole nother personal journey. But one that's been super important in my life.
What have been the fruits of those habit changes that you made to cope with your anxiety and to grow from your anxiety? What have been the fruits of that like today in your life? Whether it's like how you treat people or just how you live your life differently, like
Yeah.
what's been the fruits of that?
Yeah, I mean, I think like I said, when you're in a state, I got to a place in probably 2016, 2017, 2018, and that time range, and a lot of it happened. There was a lot of stress in my life at that point with family and my business. We had started a business, and my mom being sick. So when you're dealing with that kind of stress, and which does turn into anxiety, which turns into having different crutches and things that whether it's alcohol. For me, there was a little bit of that, but is my OCD actually got like really bad at that time too, because it was like a control thing, and a lot of anxiety even with that, like my OCD and wanting things like clean, like perfect, and it's really, I mean, again, you learn how your brain is working, and now I know, I'm like, dude, that was my way of controlling things, like OCD, that's what that is. Like, if you want to keep your area so clean, and that's okay, but like the way I was doing it was not healthy. Like, it was, if somebody came in and messed it up, my son came in and knocked over, a bowl of cereal, like, dude, I'm freaking out a little bit, so seeing that, but like getting to a point to where you can pull back and see that for what it is. I think that was really important for me, and I think just a lot of things that we deal with in life, until we can kind of get through them, get healthy enough to pull back and see them for what they are. It's it's difficult until we get to that place, but then it's like once we finally get to the end of that, start getting healthier, and then take 20 steps up and look back at it and like, oh, okay, like that's what was going on there. Like, it wasn't about me just like being the super clean, guy wanting everything clean. No, this was like more about me wanting to control. This is what I could control, and that wasn't necessarily a healthy thing, and so I took ownership for some of the weaknesses and things that I had been struggles, in my life, and now I can look back and be like, yeah, that wasn't healthy, and that's why I was doing the things that way, because I wanted a little piece of control in that area, because maybe things were out of control in other areas. So anyway, that's kind of what life's about. It's reflecting, looking back and saying like, now I see why that was the way it was, and why it wasn't a healthy thing, but now I want to be different. I want to take control of that, and because of that, my anxiety will be a lot less, and maybe I won't have anxiety about it anymore. So
are you happy with where your mental health is today?
I am. I've come a long way, I'd say in the last 6 months personally. I've been through a lot in terms of, went through a divorce in the past couple of years that was very significant. That was did not see it playing out the way it did, and as I was going through it, leaned super hard on God, and thankfully I did that, because I know now that He strategically put people in my path, through that time. Just throw out a couple names. One of my buddy Jeffrey Steele, he lives here in Satellite. Other friend Stephanie Brown. They were two crucial people in my life for like the gnarliest part of that storm that I went through. And T-Back, I mean, he's been with me the whole stretch. I mean, he's encouraged me and helped me through it as well. But just, having those people in my life, or at a time where nothing really made sense, with the way my marriage was playing out, and what things that were happening there, and how it just took a crazy turn. I felt like I didn't understand any of it and why it was happening, but through these relationships, I with new people, I had never met these people, and literally like they just all of a sudden were there. I remember one day with Jeff, I had this like something on my mind, like, and it was almost like I needed an answer for it, and so I was just questioning, like I was like, I need this answer, and I never really talked to Jeff, only a little bit about surfing. Called him like on a Saturday morning, went for a walk through my neighborhood, and I was just like, Jeff, man, this is what's going on, and I don't get it, man. I don't understand. I need some clarity. Like, what do you think about? Like, I know you've been a pastor and you've counseled people, and I'm like, so I need you to help me a little bit. Like, just grasp like what is this that I'm feeling and why is it happening? And he was just able to literally like go into detail on some stuff he had been through, a very, very similar situation and relationship that he had been through, and was able to really like explain to me why things were happening the way they were, and because of what he had gone through. And it was like everything I was telling him about what I was experiencing, like he was basically like, it's like, bro, I can't. He's like, that's kind of exactly what happened to me, like.
Wow.
And as it all kept playing out, I mean, he would continue saying this. He's like, bro, like, I've had these feelings, and I've, been through a relationship that had very similar experiences as to what you're going through right now.
No way.
And so, yeah, so it was huge, man. That was huge to have him. I mean, I talked to this guy for hours and hours, like, probably owe the guy like $1 million in counseling fees, but he'll get those in heaven someday as a repayment. But so talking to him, and then Stephanie, she became like a sister to me, like through that. I love you, Steph. But when you're in the right space, like mindset, when you go out in this world and interact with people, you're gonna want to smile at people. You're gonna want to like open the door for people. Hold the door open, like, because we're all here, like as humans on this earth. We gotta share this planet. So like, dude, we need to be loving each other and caring about one another. And doesn't matter who you are. Skin color, race, religion. Sexual preference, all of it, dude. It's like, that's like, should be our goal, and this really ultimately to be less about self. And we all battle with that. I mean, that's a constant battle, like the selfish versus being selfless. And so for me, that's always, kind of at the forefront. Like, I want to have experiences as a human, as a person, and but I also realize like how I interact with the person that's right in front of me right now, wherever I'm at. Like, I don't, if I'm not, having a positive impact on them in some way, I feel like I'm not like doing what I'm supposed to be doing as a human, so, and you just never know, like there, you give somebody one, word of encouragement, might be one thing you say to them, or if you only have one thing to say to them and you'll never see you again, like, what's that interaction going to look like? Is it going to be a positive or negative one? And so, yeah, I just take that pretty seriously, and I just want to, again, carry that on. And but a big part of it is mental health, physical health, spiritual health, all that. If we're not, checking those boxes very regularly, like, we're not going to be able to do that, and really care for one another. So I got this is my favorite tattoo. It says, "Love never fails." Like, what you meditate on is what you will become ultimately, and, are you doing it consistently enough? So that's a huge part of our growth, as a human. Like, what are we focusing on each day.
What do you meditate on to
Okay.
keep yourself mentally healthy? What's one thing that you do there? What's one thing that you do physically to keep yourself healthy? And then what's one thing you do spiritually?
Surfing is definitely that thing. I tell everybody it's the ultimate therapy. It's like the ultimate therapy session, because it really just does something that nothing else has ever done. Like with the physical, how physically demanding it is, but then also you're literally like flowing with Mother Nature, and what you're doing. Like these waves that come from hundreds of miles away are formed. You're connecting with that energy and like flowing with it, and learning how to flow like with the ocean is like, it's this like special dance, that you do. And a lot of people refer to it as that, like, but it really is like, if you look at what you're doing, like it's this literal dance, with the ocean, and you're bored, and it's incredible. I mean, there's really nothing like it. If you think no sport, can compare, and like what you're doing and the way you're interacting with Mother Nature is just like incredible. So it's, and there's a saying, like old saying, only a surfer knows the feeling, but it's so true. Like until you feel that, like, getting up, riding a moving wave, moving wall of energy created from who knows where, like there's just nothing that compares that feeling, and so yeah, you want to keep doing it over and over and over again, just because, and go different places all over to experience it. That's the special thing about it, to be able to travel. And luckily I've been able to travel to quite a few different places. I've been able to get, like Costa Rica, I've been, like I said, 18 times. Panama, El Salvador, Nicaragua, Hawaii a few times, out to California a bunch, Bahamas, Puerto Rico, the Dominican Republic. I think that's a couple wave pools here and there. But anyway, just being able to like combine that passion of like surfing and then traveling to different cultures, and what that's done for me personally, I think in who I've become, like, keeping it simple, like life simple, and like it's more about, for me, and what I've learned is it's more about creating experiences in life that is the most special thing you can do, rather than stuff, being your everything, being your happiness. A lot of people in our culture equate material possessions is going to make you happy, and having all this stuff, like that's what life's about, right? That's going to make you, well, I mean, it's not going to make you happy. Like it's going to drive you nuts over time. And I've always say, the more you have, the more you have to worry about. So true though. Like, the more stuff you have, the more you have to worry about. So
you've been super generous with your time. The last question I have is, for people that are watching and listening, like, how can they stay in touch with you, and what are you working on most recently that you're most excited about that you want to share with people?
Well, you can keep in touch and see what I'm doing. Obviously, Instagram's my jam, so mdayton360. I've got a marketing business, with social media. So
What's that called?
it's called Next Level Creative.
Cool.
So if anybody out there needs some good social media coaching, creating content, strategizing, all that, I mean, that's definitely where I think I thrive, within the kind of creative realm of video, photo, editing, things like that. That's what I really enjoy. And then, some traveling coming up. I've got a trip to Costa Rica I'm working on right now with a buddy of mine, Jason. So we're going to be doing some surf coaching and do some videoing and just strategizing.
19th time in Costa Rica? Is
19,
that right?
Yep, number 19
Right on, dude.
coming up, yeah. So hopefully we'll do that in the next few weeks here. And then plan a trip to the Dominican Republic again. Some of that will be for fun and surfing. I haven't really caught it super fun there yet, so I'm excited about like seeing that place go off. And then the week after that, we're gonna have a surf and serve trip, which we've been doing. This will be our second one there. So where we go and we're able to surf some, but also give back to the local communities around there and help different ministries and nonprofits with what they're doing right there in the Dominican. And we're doing that in some other areas as well. El Salvador is another place we go, and we're really giving back to some communities there.
Very cool.
Through that. So going there with a group called Surfing in the 60s. They're a group of businessmen from New Smyrna, for the most part, architects, doctors, lawyers, I mean, a bunch of different people in all kinds of different walks of life, but they all have surfing in common, and they come together and want to surf together late into their 60s, obviously, and beyond, but also go and give back to communities, like really have a heart for people. So, and that's always kind of been one of my passions, is to go and do similar things. So to connect with these guys has been super cool. And then I got to give a shout out to Stephanie Brown with Vinspiration. So she's really, about a year ago, to tell this real quick, I connected with her, saw her doing some amazing surf trips, and knew she was kind of the brainchild, behind them. And so I was like, hey, I'd love to do some trips with you, but like, let's combine this with giving back to the community. So it was kind of the inception of what has become these surf and serve trips. And these Surfing in the 60s guys came along and, connected with her. And then so now we're all connected and doing these trips on a regular basis. So, and just to see the fruit that has come from those trips is incredible. Like, we've done local surf contests with local kids, in El Salvador that barely, they duct tape surfboards together just to get, come out and be a part of it. And so we're able to go and, get them new boards and prizes and all kinds of cool stuff, but also just be there, as like to show them we care, so it's been a really special thing that we've been able to be a part of, for that last year, a little bit over a year now. And so we're working on a couple more trips coming up, and I think the goal is to do 4 trips a year with the surf and serve. So that's hopefully next year we'll be doing a total of 4 in 2023. So good things coming. We're stoked.
Thanks for your time, brother.
Yeah?
Yeah.
All right, bro. It's been amazing, for sure.
And that's our show. If you enjoyed this episode, then please take a minute to leave us a review and subscribe so that we can keep you updated each time we release a new episode. As always, thank you so much for listening. I'll see you next time.